Hello, everyone, and welcome to another week, another edition of the Talking Crap podcast. I'm your host, Lucas Jackson, joined, of course, by Jaddy Josh Porter. We are filming an episode today based on independent wrestling. So, obviously, I don't know if people had a chance to check out our season 2 episode with Taylor James regarding wrestling in Essex. So, some of the themes might come up in this one too, as we are talking to Danny Black, who wrestled all throughout London, Essex, Kent, and the bigger picture too.
Pretty much wherever he can.
Yeah, he'll be joining us momentarily, and you know we are halfway through season 3 as well, so it's heating up in terms of the Pipebomb Promo challenge too. So it'll be interesting to see, as he is your guest
through already. Yeah,
he is your guest this week. I'll tell you what. Let's bring him in. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome former Progress star, former DKW Chaos champion as well, and a good friend of ours here at Talking Crap. Please welcome Danny Black. Right, so our guest this week, of course, is Danny Black, and we're talking to him about independent wrestling. Mainly in the UK, but we touch upon some stuff obviously in America too, as independent wrestling is obviously global. Before we get started, it's the most feared moment of any podcast recording. It's over to you, Mr. Porter. Is it time for the Pipebomb Promo Challenge?
The thing that everyone hates. And Joe Lando, I wouldn't be surprised if he's blocked me now, because
he was so awkward about that.
You could see the hatred
he looked
in his
dead
eyes.
inside the whole time.
So it's pretty simple. If you've already watched the podcast, I'm going to tell you the rules anyway. You've got 1 minute to give us a promo based on the topics I give you. You'll be scored out of 10, 5 points by me and 5 points by Lucas. If I remember correctly, episode 5 is an odd number, which means you're on Team Josh because I've got all the odd numbers. Do you understand the rules?
Yeah.
Yeah? Perfect. Right. So your 2 topics are, you are at Triumph Pro Wrestling challenging Rocky Mack for his Triumph Pro Wrestling Championship.
Cool.
Your 1 minute to give us a promo starts now.
I think I know his tactic. He wants to. You're going to let the time go out. Let the time run out. This has never happened before. How long left?
We're just about to hit 50 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Time's up.
I better get a lower score than Joe Lando now.
I don't think you can get any score.
Surely it has to be DQ, doesn't it?
I think for the first time in Pipebomb Promo Challenge history, Danny Black, you've just been disqualified for saying 0 words for the entire minute.
I'm an innovator.
Which means you don't even get a 0 for that. You just get a DNF.
Good. That means I've beat Joe Lando in having the lowest score in history.
Which is all I wanted. Score. So yeah, technically, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if anything, it wouldn't be a DNF. It would be a DNS. Did not start.
Did not start. Did not finish. Well, that's the unique. That's a unique one.
Orlando.
That's a unique one.
Yeah.
But look, our main topic this week obviously is independent wrestling, and we're going to start with talking about the UK scene. And obviously, it's been a while since obviously the UK scene's had anything to it. But obviously, coming up to like 2020, like things were looking really strong. I think you'll agree with that, wouldn't you? Like, you know, things looking really strong.
100%.
And obviously, we're hoping that obviously when it's safe to do so, we can welcome fans back again. That things can continue. But I mean, let's just talk about the UK scene then. Like, what was so great about being part of the UK scene, you know, prior to obviously 2020?
there was so much I loved about it. Like, especially at the start of 2020, it was going to be like my busiest year in wrestling. Like I think we locked down first in February, didn't we? Last year,
March.
something like that.
March.
Okay, yeah, yeah. So the month after that, like, was literally going to be my busiest month I've ever had. I had like 9 shows lined up that month. I was so gutted. But yeah, like just the sheer amount of shows, the sheer amount of talent, like there's so much out there, and there's so much variety as well, like different types of shows.
I think that's something which a lot of people might not know, because obviously a lot of people, I guess, you're always thinking of the big guys, obviously Progress, ICW, etc. over here, but the variety of shows that go on, like, you know, from camp shows, family friendly shows, nightclubs, you know, that kind of stuff. The scene was really getting, every single sector was getting ticked, wasn't it? During that time, like prior to us. And it's not just yourself.
It gives the wrestlers such like a different experience at each place they wrestle, because like every crowd's different. Like, say I work drop kicks one week, it's a very family orientated crowd, but then the next week I'll be on like a Battle Pro after hours, and it's like all adults, proper rowdy. Like, yeah, it's completely different, but I love the variety you get to perform in front of.
So Josh, like, you know, from a fan perspective, or from what you know of independent wrestling over here, like, what is it you think about like independent wrestling over here? Like, what is it that makes it, you know, like just so booming? I guess before everything happened last year.
I honestly couldn't give you a good answer for it, because just so much changed from what the shows used to be, where it was very, very kind of serious, where fans weren't really allowed to meet people after the shows on every single show, especially at some of the camp shows like Butlins. But it's kind of, this was speaking like 10 years ago, but since then promotions have kind of slowly stopped, not necessarily caring about kayfabe, but thinking, after the show, why do we need to worry? Why can't we just give out autographs, etc.? So I think that interaction between fans and wrestlers, where that's evolved so much and gotten so much more hype around it, I think people are like, yeah, let's go, because it's cheaper than WWE, and most of the time it's actually better than WWE. Like the atmosphere itself, because you're not just there watching a show on a stage, you feel more involved at an indie show than you do at a live WWE event.
Yeah, I guess as well, like, people know that their ticket money is going obviously towards improving that promotion and seeing that promotion.
Exactly.
And all those groups of guys. So Dan, you touched upon obviously some great talent obviously in the UK. In the UK scene. We're going to focus obviously on our kind of areas, obviously Southeast, you know, London, Kent, Essex, etc. Like, you know, what kind of talent are you looking forward to either working with, I guess, yourself, or, you know, seeing do well elsewhere, kind of when stuff does return?
Oh, there's loads. So for me, one of my goals last year, which I'm just going to transfer over to when wrestling's back, because I don't know, I won't say for this year because I don't even know. One of my goals was to have like wrestle more bigger names, and I actually had a few booked in that never got to happen. So I was meant to wrestle Paul Robinson at Pro Wrestling Ambush. That never happened, but I really want that match. And me and Billy Hayes were meant to wrestle Pretty Deadly like 3 times, and none of them happened. So yeah, those type of matches is definitely something I want coming back into it. But at the same time, I really want to wrestle some of the new guys coming up, just to like showcase what they can do. Not that I'm like a big name or anything, but like I feel like getting in there with the new guys, they're really hungry and they just like want to put on the best match possible. So people like Nino, people like Jamie. Jamie's worked for you a couple of times, isn't he? Welsh guy that trains at Knuckle Locks.
Yeah. Sorry, yeah. He's a couple of
yeah. People like him. Yeah. And then you've got like so many underrated guys that haven't got a chance to like really break out yet, but definitely will when things are back on. People like Alexander Roth, Warren Banks was doing a few bits, but he's definitely going to be a huge name when things come back because he's so talented. And obviously you've got like the main eventers already, like the Connor Mills, the OJMOs, all them guys. It's so deep, like the talent pool, especially like not even just in the London scene. Like there's so many guys up in Wales that are like insanely good that don't really get a look in, but will when shows get back. That's what I'm excited about really as well. Another thing, when shows come back, because a lot of guys have like moved on, they're signed now and all this. And obviously like it's going to leave open so many spots for the guys that were kind of mid-carders before that couldn't really get into that main event spot. They're just going to be put in that main event spot now, and they're going to prove why they belong there.
That's more than a fair answer. I think obviously a lot of people are banking on 2020 being obviously a big year. Obviously, just in the world in general, obviously, I guess if you had any goals last year, they obviously transferred to this year, and in wrestling in particular. And I think the depth of talent that obviously did get signed by WWE and was waiting for other people to obviously, rise into their footsteps. You touched upon like Connor Mills, someone I think definitely should be someone who is on the cusp of next being signed, perhaps, but it is a case of, like, it's great that you've got guys like yourself, and it's so good like to hear that people want to work with people, and that's how it works. That's how it works best, So Porter, coming to you next.
Oh, and I forgot to say, sorry, I really want to wrestle Joe Lando and Callum Newman. They're two of my best friends, and I've never wrestled either of them. And it really annoys me because like we put on
the tag or anything.
No. Oh, I've wrestled Joe once on like a camp show, so we didn't really do anything because it was a camp show. But I want to have like a proper like sick match with him because we come up with some insane stuff in his garden. So yeah.
I can imagine. Obviously, Joe, we spoke to a few weeks ago. He's looking forward to be able to do stuff, obviously, in his own ring, obviously, and potentially looking into like some other kind of backyard stuff as well. And I guess the stuff that you guys could do, given the right opportunity, could be like quite highlight reel, let's say. But yeah, I can't believe you never wrestled either of them. That's
annoying.
But look, this is a good thing. Like hopefully this year or when wrestling returns, to be able to obviously fulfill those obligations. So basically, we touched upon something there actually, which I think we kind of brushed upon it. But camp shows then. Obviously, camp shows are a massive part of British wrestling, and for myself, seeing British wrestling, the first time I ever saw it was at a camp show. Paul, I don't know about you. I think you've seen camp shows as well, haven't you?
I have. When I used to go to Great Yarmouth every single year, they'd always have one.
And I think it's something which obviously, like, it's a sector which doesn't get talked about like a lot. But the thing is, I got my start on camp shows, and I love camp shows. There's something unique about them, something uniquely British about them too, I think. Going to holiday camps. Obviously, America have lovely weather, have lovely everything else. Sometimes camp shows, obviously, they're on rainy bank holiday weekends or whatever it might be. But let's talk about camp shows. What are kind of your favourite things about a camp show, Danny?
I really love the atmosphere there because, like I said, it's so different to an adult audience. It's like when it's made up of mostly like kids and families, they're so into it, but in a different way. It's like obviously the magic's still alive for them of wrestling, and it's like they're so into it. They really want to see the good guys win. They really want to see the bad guys lose. And it's when they scream for this, all the camp show chants, I love, like the "We want more" stuff. And the interactions after as well, like obviously at shows where it's mainly adults, you interact with them so differently. So like with an adult, you just go up to them, have a normal conversation. With kids, they're like always just so excited. They run up to you, like, and it just like for the wrestlers, I guess it makes you feel like a star already when you're not. If that makes sense. Because
it does. No, it does.
Yeah. So it's just a really nice feeling, like seeing like a performance you put on, like seeing it being loved by so many people.
Yeah, I think because with camp show, I think you kind of encapsulate that, the peak of people being a fan, if that makes sense. Like I guess obviously people like wrestling after that, but I think obviously once they start knowing that, okay, these guys know each other, like, they're friends. There's this line that obviously we thought existed as kids, but it doesn't exist anymore. Then the magic kind of gets lost. But it's nice seeing capturing that, and again, it's so unique because again, camp shows, while people might come on holiday every year, it is one of those things where that audience each time is going to be very, very different, because people go on holiday once a year and that's it sometimes. To Josh, you talk about Great Yarmouth kind of camp shows. What kind of sticks out for you about camp shows that's different or unique to, just being a camp show?
It was it wasn't a real promotion. It was just one that they put on with local wrestlers. But
yeah, it happened quite often.
Every year, it was the exact same people playing different characters. Every year, same people, different gimmicks. I think that's what stuck out because they had no sense of storyline there. Or if they did, it was just for that show.
Yeah.
Because they knew that it wasn't a regular character. It was just this one-off thing they did once a month. But I think because it's such a small-scale thing and it's just so family-orientated, they understand that they don't really need to have a story at all. Like, there is no storyline involved with camp shows, which is what I kind of like about it. It's just action and it's just a bit of fun. Like, it's a fun day out to go to a camp show. There's nothing serious about it, which I think is so much of the appeal of it. And in America, they don't do camp shows, but they'll do like festival shows where they'll just go to like a random festival, which I think is that kind of difference between us and the US is we have this small scale family thing, which is actually probably a hidden gem, I'd say.
Oh, absolutely. I think, look, the amount of names that have wrestled on camp shows, we can't forget that. The amount of names, and we're talking like WWE names, like people that are signed now, that have had matches on camp shows. And you say about festivals, to be fair, like that was something which in the last couple of years, actually, over here, we were starting to get more of, a lot of festivals, a lot of fates, because wrestling, it's something which, again, Danny, we touched upon it, it's for everyone, isn't it? So whether you're a kid, with your family, whether you're adults, whether you're whatever. And so, and outdoor events, obviously, we're starting to get a bit more popular over here. Obviously, nothing really happened last year. But I think it's definitely something we're seeing more, obviously, when wrestling, does return, because wrestling can kind of be put into kind of anywhere and anything. So in terms of being an indie wrestler, being an independent wrestler, the goal, obviously, the goal of being a wrestler, when I started, obviously, this was back in 2004, obviously it was very closed. It was very you do camp shows, you do your own promotion shows, and if you wanted to, you would look to get to the WWE. And that was obviously a goal that a lot of people had at one point. Now, obviously, as an indie wrestler, would you argue that, while, yes, a lot of people still would like to be in the WWE, whether it is through NXT as well, which we'll touch upon soon, but, could you argue that, there's AEW, there's Japan, there's just wrestling there's just wrestling around the world globally without having to be tied down. So as an independent wrestler, what would be kind of the main goals?
Yeah, it's 100%. There's so much more options out there now. So you could even, without signing anywhere, make very good money. Just go into all the top indie shows all over the world. Personally,
frozen a bit there.
Danny, you're frozen.
I'll pause it a sec.
Record again.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, there's definitely way more options out there now, which makes it really exciting for an independent wrestler. It's you don't have to follow this one career path where it's grind on the indies for years, get a tryout at the PC, get told no 5 times, then eventually get there. It's there's so many more options. You've got NXT UK now, you've got AEW. With AEW Dark, they have indie guys on all the time.
Yeah.
You've got obviously New Japan and other promotions in Japan like DDT. Chris Brooks is over there now, and Drew Parker, and there's so many options. So yeah, it's just really exciting.
Yeah, Josh, obviously for you, more from the fan effects then, I guess it's interesting seeing that if people don't want to go for WWE, they don't have to, and you can watch them on, like I said, on Impact, you can watch them in Japan, you can watch them, all throughout, would you agree?
Yeah, easy. There's indie promotions all across the world, and there's also larger promotions all across the world. Ring of Honor, New Japan, even WXW in Germany. Right,
a lot of European talent.
Yeah, you've got a lot of British wrestlers that like traveling Europe. So what they'll do is they'll travel Europe and try and get booked on shows while they're there. Because you've got plenty. Even Portugal has 2 wrestling promotions, and Holland. The amount of options out there is ridiculous. And obviously, being in the internet age as we are, majority of them have shows online somewhere you can watch it. Which I think is the best part about indie wrestling, is it's so readily available, not just to travel to, but to watch online as well. That's one of the biggest fan appeals. Like, especially one of my goals is I want to travel Europe. And if I can tick off wrestling promotions as I go, I'm going to.
Yeah, true. I guess thinking obviously back when I was getting into wrestling, and obviously if you want to watch anything that wasn't WWE, it was like you had to do tape trading as only way. You know, I remember swapping DVDs of bloody shows back in like early 2000s. That was literally the only way. And obviously there was a lot of early attempts at trying to get bigger shows over here. You know, and obviously guys like, well, the kind of original indie guys, I guess, like your Johnny Storms, you know, were part of that. In the early 2000s. And obviously, they went over to America, you know, to Ring of Honor, you know, to Impact Wrestling, slash TNA, sorry, as it was them. But now, obviously, at the stage where there's so much, like you said, the internet, there's so much wrestling obviously readily available. So the last thing I'm going to touch upon then is obviously NXT UK. And, you know, it gets, to put it nicely, it gets a mixed reception, I think, with regards to UK fans. Is NXT UK damaging or helpful to the UK wrestling scene?
I think it's helpful, personally, because not only have I seen like a few of my friends get jobs there, which is, I love it so much. Like Aaliyah James got signed there recently. I'm very happy for her. Sam Stoker and Lewis Howley got signed. Very happy for them. I've known Sammy since like I first started training, so to see him get signed, I was so happy. I texted him straight away. But yeah, it's not only that, it's like with these guys getting signed, it's just going to provide more spots for people like me on bigger shows on the indie level now. So whereas before, like, these people would have been on like Rev Pros and Progresses and like stacked up their roster, now their roster's a bit thinner. It may leave space for people like me to come in, which I definitely want to do, and like prove where I can fit in there, you know?
Yeah, and absolutely. What about you, Potter? Do you think that NXT UK is damaging or helpful?
At first, I thought it was quite damaging because it was snatching up all of the big names that we had, obviously by contracts. Majority of the time, these big names would just be going to whatever promotion they were needed at because they didn't have a contract. They didn't have to stick to one. But at first, I thought it was damaging purely because of that. But as Danny said, it's now giving opportunities to other people, which I think is beneficial in its own way. Because not only do we have the big names in NXT UK, but we're now getting even more big names across the rest of the indie platforms. So realistic, if you think about it, we've doubled in big wrestling names in the UK now, purely because NXT UK have contracted all of the originals.
Yeah, I'd argue in a way that obviously NXT UK's put spotlight on the scene. Obviously, the scene was doing well. Don't get me wrong. Without NXT UK, obviously Progress, ICW, etc., drawing big numbers. Obviously, even before this even became a thing. But obviously, the WWE kind of given their sign of approval, or whatever, kind of has helped. And I guess because they do things differently anyway, because obviously they're still very much about tapings and about the production element of it. It's still, and because obviously it's WWE, something which obviously some of our bigger promotions, are known for is obviously being more adult anyway. So Progress and ICW, obviously they cater more for adult fans. So people that say it's damaging it is a bit weird because Progress and ICW are still doing adult shows and still have fantastic rosters, and obviously WWE via NXT UK, do family shows or more geared towards a family audience because obviously it's their brand and company image. But yeah, it's been great talking to you, Danny. But before we go, then just a final kind of thing, like what are you most looking forward to, when shows kind of do get back then?
Apart from just wrestling in general, I just miss it so much. I'd say more opportunities for me. I'm really excited to see what happens. I've got a few things penciled in for this year. If they end up happening, I don't know, but let's hope. So yeah, I'm just really excited for the opportunities I'm going to get and to prove myself as someone that can be like a mainstay in bigger promotions.
No, that's a good answer. That's a good answer. And Porter, what are you looking forward to most then when shows obviously can return?
Just working on more, helping out on more shows. Like,
he's very handy, Porter.
There's 3 or 4 promotions that I've worked for so far. Only 3 of them being in the UK. One of them, I'm going to have to censor this, being Turbo British Wrestling. I don't know if you remember. You were meant to be booked on one of their shows.
No, I was not.
I know the promoter talked about booking you along with others, but that is the only show that I emceed that has the name that I came up with, which was Joseph Prince. And there is a fan there who has a poster with the only known autograph of Joseph Prince ever. And it's the only one that's going to be, because I'm not going back to that name, because now I've got the random one that I was given by Matt Ball. But yeah, just going to more shows and helping out on more shows.
I think we all miss just being around it to an extent,
Just going back to normality.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's something like the actual wrestling on the shows, which obviously I miss. Like I miss just like hanging out before the show with everyone and just chatting to everyone. Like that atmosphere alone it was so like such a good community to be around, and I've just missed it.
Yeah. Obviously, a lot of people, outside the business might know, but it is one of those things on show days where, what we do in the ring is one of the aspects, but it is obviously, like you said, before going afterwards, sometimes you go for meals or whatever, or you link up or whatever. And I guess in general, you could that's the biggest sense of this whole, obviously, global pass at the moment, though, isn't it? Like the whole it's taken away all that kind of fun and, being around people, isn't it? Which is what we need. We need and we want. But look, cross fingers, we all get a chance to kind of revisit this in some point later this year. But thanks for being on, Danny.
No worries.
And until then, I've been Lucas Jackson, joined by J. Josh Porter. You've watched the Talk About podcast. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you very much, and good day.
Take it easy.
Bye.